What if you are an eternal spiritual being, living a temporary human experience, and before you came to earth, incarnated in the body that you have right now, you forgot all of this information. You forgot that reality is a learning school that you come to learn more about who you are. What if at the deeper levels, this is simply an avatar that is something you are embodying in this life to gain experiences, to progress your own soul's growth to a higher level? Now, in this video, what I want to share with you is some of the more esoteric information I've been learning that has completely changed the way that I view reality, the way that I view other people, the way that I show up in the world has completely shifted because of the things I share in this video. It comes from an understanding of us all being connected to one divine mind. The divine mind, what some people call God, the universe, source energy. We're all a different aspect of consciousness that has fallen asleep in this dream called life to go through different experiences to learn different lessons. Some of those lessons being forgiveness, some of those lessons being love, to experience the beauty of life that it has to offer. But nonetheless, I want to share with you one of the most profound teachers I've been learning about recently. His name's Itzhak Bentov, who was a very interesting person that was an inventor and mechanical engineer. He's someone that when he was young, he had this interesting story where he knew as a kid, he had a vision of his parents dying in the Holocaust. I think it was Prague at the time. And he then knew immediately, he had a vision of it happening, and he knew that his parents died in this Holocaust. He ended up leaving Prague and going to Israel, where then he worked in the army, and then he studied mechanical engineering and different areas of study that he had. He then eventually studied meditation. And what he would do is he would go into meditative states to learn about the universe. He was a profound consciousness teacher back in the day. He passed away way too early. It's rumored that before he passed away, he was with his assistant, getting ready to get onto a plane to go talk at a consciousness event. And he said that nobody getting on the plane had an aura, which meant he knew that everyone was gonna die. He got on the plane anyways and ended up dying because he thought and believed it was his time to go. As he knew or had this perception that this life is is a short life that we're having for an experience, but we're eternal spiritual beings. So I found it very interesting. Now here's a quote from his book called The Cosmic Book. I got this book, read it all in one night. It's only 100 pages. I read it all last night, stayed up kind of late. This is what he says. He says, "The implications of this holographic model are monumental. It implies that all the knowledge in the universal mind is available to anyone who can tune into it, because, as in all holograms, the information is totally distributed throughout the universe. We are all one, as above, so below, God is within you, and the universe is in a grain of sand. Take on a new meaning when seen in the light of a holographic model." Now, what he also says is that our psyches form an interference pattern between each other with other units of consciousness in the universe. This universal mind hologram, or the absolute, and it contains all frequencies, and each level of consciousness can relate to its absolute reference beam, is what it says. Now, basically what it's saying is that we are all part of the universal mind of God. That what we have done is segmented ourselves into this avatar that we have to have an experience on life, to learn more about who we are. What we think of as other people is that of other aspects of our consciousness that we are interacting with, that also our energies within them we've simply forgot. This was what makes it kind of funny when it comes to karma, because what we put out is what we get back, because what we do to someone else, we do to another aspect of our own consciousness. Now, here's an understanding about this as well that really has helped me understand more about reality, how to shift to the parallel reality that I want, or how to create using this holographic model of reality. And it has to do with understanding that of the bits of information that are around us at any moment. Now, what physics is showing us and what we are learning is that there's about 15 million bits of information around us at any given time. But we only perceive of about 40 of those 15 million bits. What if the 40 bits of information that we experience are simply the energy that is active inside our energetic field? And what if we only perceive of people and experiences in our life that are equal to that energy that is active within our field? Now, this is where things get very interesting, because normally we have this pattern of focusing on changing outer reality when in fact there may be no outer reality. It may be that all reality is on the outside is a reflection of us on the inside. Now, this gets a little bit tricky. I was at a mastermind event speaking at a friend's event recently, and there was a woman in the crowd that expressed to me, because I was talking about YouTube and creating content. It was like a business mastermind. And there was a woman in the crowd that expressed that she's afraid to put content out there because she's really afraid of what her mom thinks. Her parents think. She's Filipino, and in that tradition, as in many traditions, there's this very strong desire to make mom and dad happy. But as a result of that, she feels like she has this people pleaser pattern where she's trying to please her parents. Even though she knows she wants to express herself and she wants to put out content and she wants to share this aspect of herself, she feels like she can't because she won't get the approval or validation of her parents, and that's very important to her. Here's what I put her attention on. Who's to say that when you start expressing the real you, your parents will reject you? Your parents won't approve. We assume that because of past experience, but what if the 40 out of the 15 million bits of information that we perceive of is the way we expect them to be? Because we embody the energy of, I feel really guilty. What is mom and dad gonna think about me talking about this stuff? What is mom and dad gonna think? And then because we feel that energy, we then attract the 40 bits of information of our parents that are then being judgmental. And what if the idea as well was that maybe being that expressive version of yourself and sharing what you're actually passionate about lets your parents upgrade? Maybe they do have little blocks about it, or oh, they're doing not exactly what I want, but it lets them grow into another aspect of themselves. It lets them expand beyond their own capacity, their own limitations and stubbornness. This happens many times. I think a lot of times people may incarnate into families where there's a lot of stubbornness, maybe because of also the tradition of our past. But what happens is we do that intentionally to help people break out of their boxes, to break the pattern of that past conditioning. Now, it's very important to take on a practice of taking responsibility for your own field. Now, let me explain why. When we look at that of karma and what we put out and what we get back, and the energy that a lot of us carry, by the way, we think of as our own, a lot of the energy we carry is simply passed on to us from our mom and our dad and from our lineage, our ancestral line of energy. Because remember, all exists here and now. We're all connected to the one. We're having this divine dream that we're this temporary human being, that we're actually eternal spiritual beings, have temporary human experiences. But with that comes this genetic code, comes this DNA that's been stored from past generation. Now think of it like this. When you say this is you right here, and say there's someone else over here. Now, what happens is you splintered out. Say this is your oversoul or something. Let's just use this as an analogy. Just bear with me here because this can change the way you see a lot. Let's say this is your oversoul, and then you splintered off into different bodies. There's an aspect of yourself that's splintered off into different versions of you, and then you go through living life like this is who I am. You forget that you're connected to all these other pieces because you're meant to have this individualistic experience to remember that you're connected to everyone else. So then what happens is you look to other people that maybe do you wrong, maybe you do something you feel guilty about, whatever, and then you say, oh, why what you do, what you put out is what you get back, because you're connected at a higher level. So a part of our reality is that what you put out is what you get back, so that you can learn what you are in a way having other people feel. And the important part to remember this though is that you are a piece of God energy, of the divine. We forget this. Now, sometimes there's a powerful practice that I share a lot called Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian ancient technique for healing and taking responsibility of your own field. Saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And as you do that, you release the energy from your field and it allows you to free it up. But what happens is you're taking responsibility for what's around your own field. Remember, we were looking at the field of energy around us? And as you take responsibility and you let it go, you clean out so that the 40 bits of information you perceive of are of a higher quality. Now, at the fundamental core, what you came here to learn is you came here to learn love. Love is the glue of everything in our reality. And love is the natural feeling you have for your brothers and sisters and your family members beyond what is called the data. The data is the information and the drama that we absorb from either past trauma, past ancestral lines, or from our experiences of life from the past. We develop these stories and these meanings. And the key is becoming aware of how you can forgive the meaning, the past, forgive other people, because at a deeper level, you realize they are you. Now, the divine is who you naturally are. Now, if you were to ask Eckhart Tolle about forgiveness, he would tell you that there's nothing to forgive. And you'd say, what? This person did this thing to me in the past. What do you mean there's nothing to forgive? The reason he says there's nothing to forgive is because what he says is what somebody did to you didn't come from presence and the God within them. What they did to you came from the data, or another word for that is he calls things pain body, or the unconsciousness. The unconsciousness, and as you become aware that people were acting out unconsciousness against you, it wasn't that they hurt you, it's that it was unconsciousness was playing itself out. So what you're forgiving is the unconsciousness in someone else. But as someone becomes aware, they wouldn't do it. This is why Jesus said, at least in the Bible, it says that what Jesus said is that forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, they are acting out of unconsciousness. They aren't aware of what they are doing. So waking up is about taking responsibility for your own field, realizing we are all part of the divine matrix. We're all part of the divine. And as you realize you're part of the divine, when people do something wrong to you, it's easier to forgive them when you realize that it's just unconsciousness playing itself out. I can look back and clearly see that the unconsciousness from my ex-stepmom, for example, from 7 to 15, the reason she treated me the way she did, and she was very controlling and manipulative and abusive, was because that's how she was treated from her dad. Doesn't make it right, but it does help me understand that the forgiveness was able to come in because I saw she was doing the best she could with the level of consciousness she was at. It really reframed a lot. I was able to let go of so much energy, so much pain. When you look at anyone in your life that's done something to you, they've done it from the level of consciousness they were at. And maybe they were unconscious. But as you let go and as you forgive, you end up clearing out your energetic field. And you may not know where some of the patterns come in your life, but when you forgive someone else, you may also be forgiving and doing of service to other ancestral lines of energy. Your grandma, your great-grandma, your great-great-great-great-grandma, where all these energies are passed down. I've clearly been able to see that my dad has a nice guy pattern that I've had to shed as I've gotten older. And his dad had that. My grandma told me his dad had that same pattern. He just passed it on. And I would get so I would see my dad go through pain and get walked on by other people and him be frustrated. And I would get so frustrated with him because I'm like, why? Just wake up. Just stand up for yourself. And I'd get frustrated. And I love my dad and I would want him to shift out of that. But then I'd have to forgive and realize he's doing the best he can with where he's at. It was just unconsciousness that's been playing itself out. But in an interesting way, I was able to let go of that energy and then not carry it in me. And the message for you here today is to realize that this is the school called life. We've forgotten who we are so that we can remember who we are, so that we can learn the lessons in our life that will help us to evolve our soul. But at the fundamental level, there really is no outside. It's all a reflection of the inside. You shifting is about you becoming aware of the unconsciousness, realizing you're connected to everyone else, and honestly, you focusing on your own field of energy, because the 40 bits of information that you perceive of out of the 15 million are going to be what's active within your own energetic field. And you have thought forms all around your body. I made a video on thought forms recently. If you haven't checked it out, it's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. But it's all about thought forms and how thought forms from Netflix, from friends, from that you send people thoughts, they're energetic structures that are invisible to our eyes. but it has a very powerful effect on our field. That's why meditation is one of the most powerful things that can absolutely transform your life. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, I do have something called the Shift Experience. The Shift Experience is based on that of the Gateway Experience meditation CDs that I listen to, which are all about, the CIA did a research on it. It's all about, astral projection and remote viewing and like expanding your consciousness. I made my own version of it that are meditations for shifting into a higher vibrational you, letting go of the past stories, letting go of the past patterns so that you can embody the higher vibrational you and give yourself permission to really be it so that the outer reality completely shifts. Now, if you want to check that out, go to thedailyvortex.com or click the link below, and you get a free trial to try out that whole entire process I'm talking about, which is a meditation experiences that will completely shift your energy from the inside out. Now, if you want to check out the thought form video as well, I'm going to go ahead and post that video right here. Check out this video. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever made.